Hello, everyone. Frank and Darren back again, the Slaughterland Movie Podcast. And Darren, we were planning on getting to this movie or this franchise eventually, but we just needed a reason to get to it. And you know what? Like all of our ideas, it has to do with its age.
What is it? 40? 40 years
40
old?
years. 1985 in July. It was a July 4th week blockbuster, and it had its problems, didn't it? I mean, acting wise, there's two Martys.
Well, there is. That was the thing. They filmed several weeks with Eric Stoltz and figured it just wasn't working. And they brought in Michael J. Fox to replace him. So he was working flat out, like 7 days a week to do this. He must have been absolutely knackered doing this shoot. Seriously burnt out at the end of this. I mean, I think there is a couple of shots that remain in the film that are Eric Stoltz. Not his, obviously not his face or anything, but I think there are a couple of shots where maybe his body is in camera and they kept that in. But it does beg the question, doesn't it? How bad was he for them to scrap it after a few weeks?
I mean, they kept it where he punched Biff.
Yes.
Where did his shoot begin and where did his scene end? So which is his first shot and which is his last shot of his whole entire week or two there, or several weeks of being there? We don't know, do we?
I don't know. I mean, presuming it wasn't shot in chronological order, it could have been any scene throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, and also in the first instance, the time machine was supposed to be a fridge. Is that right? I read today.
Yeah.
And it was changed to a DeLorean because of its unique look. And, and there was also this worry that Robert Zemeckis had that people might climb into fridges. Kids might climb into fridges. So they didn't want any of that. But
they did before that, Darren, because remember that poor kid in the airplane movie was trapped in a refrigerator and ate his own foot.
Oh, the newspaper report. Yeah.
So maybe he saw an early cut of. Well, no, that'd be a long time ago for this movie. But yeah, it's just refrigerators. Now people are using toasters, but I don't think we ever had a time machine that had, as Doc Brown said, go into some style like a DeLorean.
And a car that wasn't it true that the company who made the DeLorean went bankrupt before the movie was released or something like that? It was
a lot of the DeLoreans are in the sea actually because they're stainless steel. A lot of DeLoreans are still around, and the DeLoreans were fantastic because it never rusted. And if you dinged a part, you could just take 4 screws out and put the new part in. Because it was all sectioned off. Now, like today, like the other day, I put in my wife's new side view mirror that she hit on the side of the garage, and you have to take the whole door panel off, but in like 4 different parts, just to get to the mirror.
Did she do that? Really?
Yeah, she did.
Recently?
Oh no, I waited. Maybe she had it for about 6 months with a broken side mirror. But.
You've been stewing and letting this and keeping this on ice until this episode, haven't you? So you can land her in it.
Yeah. There goes another one. At least I know something to do, how to take off a side view mirror on a Nissan Rogue. But Back to the Future, and one problem I do have with this movie, though, is its ending. Because I could talk about the ending because I don't think it's any part of our best moments. Is the different Jennifers.
You mean going from 1 to 2?
Correct. And
you're right. The continuity is incredible when you look at this going from 1 to 2. But of course, you didn't have the same Jennifer. You had Jennifer was played by Claudia Wells, and in the sequel, obviously played by Elizabeth Shue, and also George McFly as well. There was an issue with him about the salary and creative differences, all that kind of stuff. And then years later, it kind of comes out that he sues them again because they've used a mold of his face, which they took to use on the new actor that came in. So his likeness is technically in the new films in part 2. And so he sued them again. And it's just an horrible mess. that he got himself into, and didn't do himself any favors, I don't think, in the process either.
Would you consider George and
Lorraine?
Would you consider them like main characters, like Doc and Marty, or are they just really like co-stars?
No, I think they're pretty front and center. I think throughout this, because the whole thing is he has to get his parents together, or else he doesn't exist. So
that's creepy, though, isn't it?
It is.
Darren?
Yeah, there are a few kind of moments of creepiness in this film, which we'll talk about it anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Okay, your best character.
Best character for me is Marty. Definitely Marty. I mean, like Michael J. Fox in this. I mean, I was never a fan of Family Ties. So going to see this, it was kind of like, I mean, it was on TV in the UK. It wasn't very popular, I don't think, in the UK. But I wasn't really a fan of it. So seeing this movie, I was kind of going into it with fairly low expectations. And there was a 6-month difference between the release date in the US and the release date in the UK. I think you guys had it in the July the 3rd. We had to wait until December to get this movie. It was a Christmas release. Yeah, it was a Christmas release for us. So I think I have to choose Michael J. Fox because I really had no expectations from him going into this. Effortless charm and likability throughout this movie. Brilliant comedic timing. Emotional range he's got. He's good at physical comedy as well. And he has these kind of really sort of believable reactions to anything absurd that's said in the film. He kind of, like when he's with Doc Brown, communicating with Doc Brown, even though some of the things he says are completely wild, Marty's got this level of, I believe this, do you know what I mean? And his reactions in his face to a lot of the things that Doc Brown says are just fantastic. You know, it's great comedic timing. And he has really great chemistry with all the rest of the cast. So definitely Michael J. Fox for me, Marty McFly.
Agreed. For me, can I choose the other side of that coin, being Doc Brown?
Of course.
So Christopher Lloyd, who's been 60 ever since he was born, because he's been that old ever since. Doc Brown is what we call a crackpot scientist, right?
Oh yeah.
And something does work, and it happens that he discovers the ability to go through time because he hit his head hanging up a picture in his bathroom and hit his head on the sink, and he comes up with a flux capacitor. And he's such a crackpot that he's got all these other inventions that are non-working, like we saw the automatic dog machine, to fill Einstein's food in the beginning. Who has a speaker that large in his garage? But it's so funny because you could tell that Doc and Marty care about each other.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, it almost seems like a lot of the time that Doc is more of a father to him than George is.
Yeah, and it's his best friend at least.
Yeah.
And Doc is he always says these things about the whole, you're gonna be erased from existence, and you don't know whether you believe him or not, but then he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's really a good guy, and he really loves Marty deep down.
Yeah, I mean, he does come out with some wild statements a lot through the film, but I think the wildest thing that he does is stealing plutonium from Libyans. Which ultimately gets him killed in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Yeah. And this whole thing is then about going back in time to try and get George and Lorraine together and ultimately save Doc Brown's life.
You ever wonder how they met?
George and Lorraine?
No.
Oh, Marty and Marty. Oh, Marty, right?
You think Doc babysitted him at one time?
I don't know. Marty, it's weird.
Get the batteries.
Yeah, like we're going out. Let's get Reverend Jim to look after the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know how they met. They don't go into that, do they? Maybe they're just two lonely souls.
Yeah. No,
Marty looks like he has friends, though, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And he's a popular kid, and he has the kind of the trophy girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he has this kind of complete nerdy side to him as well. He's an odd one. He's not your archetypal kind of jock or anything like that. He's just this. He's a unique individual.
He's not his brother, right? His brother works at Burger King or later goes to the office. He's not her, not the sister who has like a Craig and a Greg going after her at the same time.
Well, I think that's a good segue into worst character.
Yes,
because
that was my whole point. Yeah. So what's yours?
Dave McFly, Marty's brother.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Burger King or Office one?
Both. It doesn't matter. I really don't like. I'm a huge Superman fan, and Mark McClure was an okay Jimmy Olsen.
Yes.
But in this, it's like Mark McClure is Mark McClure in everything. In this, he plays obviously Marty's brother, Dave McFly. But he's just, I mean, he appears in a few scenes, mainly as this kind of really sort of schlubby, uninspired character. But I don't think it's something against Mark McClure I've got. I just don't think he's a good actor at all. And he's lucky to be in this film, I think, because I think he's fairly talentless and one note.
You really wish he disappeared.
Yeah. No, and his character shows like zero development throughout the whole thing, whereas everyone else has got some sort of arc. He hasn't. It's kind of, unlike George and Lorraine's arc and Marty's arc and Doc's arc throughout this, it's sort of a missed opportunity that nothing much really happens to the brother. He's still the same irritating individual.
And the sister's a Jezebel. Okay. I never thought you would pick Marty's brother, but okay. Well, I would have picked one girl that irritates me, and that is, my wife would say that Lorraine's a pain in the ass. Leah Thompson. I bumped into her and I was like, "Oh, excuse me." I didn't know who she was at first, as I was trying to get an autograph from Alan Hallworth at Children's Theater.
I forgot you met her. Yeah.
Well, I bumped into her.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Are you in line for Alan, Leah?"
Like she'd be getting an Alan Hallworth autograph, for God's sake.
How about people are going to be like, "Really, Frank? This is your worst character?" Yeah, it just annoys me. Mr. Peabody's daughter, the farmer's daughter, in the beginning.
Oh, so Mr. Peabody being the granddad.
Why are you?
It's the granddad from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
But then I don't like the daughter because the daughter looks like she has ageism disease.
Ageism disease?
Yeah, you know how she looks older than she is?
I never really noticed that.
She has this very long face, like very long and wide. And she's next to her brother with a comic book. And the way she looks, it looks like she's married to Mr. Peabody instead of being the daughter. It's like, I don't know whether it's their grandparents or the parents, but it must be the parents because you hear her say, "Shoot him, Paul." And I'm like, but you're in Hill Valley. Nobody talks like that. Even Doc Brown says, "I remember when all this land was Mr. Peabody's. He's had something about growing pine."
Old man Peabody.
Old man Peabody.
Yeah.
And he had to look for a minute and be like, who the hell, grows pine trees or something? But yeah, but I don't like that daughter. Just the way she looks and "Shoot him, Paul." It just irritates me. When's the last time you heard someone say "Shoot him, Paul"? Is that in one of those Westerns you like?
One of those Westerns I like.
Yeah.
I am having a bit of a Western renaissance at the moment. I'm enjoying all this stuff. It's great.
I want you, next time you watch one of your 4K Clint Eastwoods, I want you to note down how many times you hear "Paul." Just irritates me. "Shoot him, Paul." Okay. Best line for you.
Best line: "Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads." Yeah, definitely best line in the film. One of the final, I think it is the last line in the film, right?
It is.
Yeah.
This movie, this trilogy can blow your mind.
There's loads of good lines in this film.
But for me, it's coming from Doc, and it's when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
There is a lot of language in this film. There's a lot.
Yeah.
How many times does he say bastard?
No! Bastard!
Like Marty McFly, especially when the Libyans are around and they shoot Doc Brown and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of language. The air's blue in Back to the Future a little bit. In more ways than one. Not just the language, but something else we'll come on to in a bit. Yeah.
Can't wait. Are you gonna get raunchy?
Not really.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be boring then. Okay, worst line.
Worst line is, I don't know. There's a few Doc Brown lines which are sort of, I think, like a little overcooked, a little overwritten. When he's talking about the dance, and he says, "Look, there's a rhythmic ceremonial ritual coming up." All right,
ceremonial ritual.
Yeah, a dance.
It sounds like we're he doesn't know to say music.
Or dance. It's just a disco or whatever it is, a ball or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhythmic ceremonial ritual. It feels a little bit overwritten. Do you know what I mean?
Like you're too smart for your character.
Yeah. No, I guess it's Doc Brown, but a couple of those lines, they're fine. I mean, this film is like a perfect movie almost.
Yes.
So we really are nitpicking here, but
yeah. One of my worst lines, it's probably the worst line in this whole movie. It gets a little racial.
Oh, okay.
And it's when Marty gets locked into the car.
Yes.
And the guy says, "Beat it, S word.
Oh,
this doesn't concern you."
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
But he goes, "Get home to your mama, boy," and starts slapping them all in the head. Listen, we don't want to mess with no reefer heads, you know, but that whole beginning of that,
yes.
I don't like it.
I know
Terrible line.
I know
Terrible.
Exactly what you mean. I know.
But there's also a line that was cut from this movie. If you know this one, it's with Marty was thinking about changing some things to the past or concerned about changing some things, and he talks about going back, changing, his life. And he says, "Yeah, I gotta be careful." I'm paraphrasing, but he says, "I can go back gay, or come out gay with my parents or something." And Doc says, "Why shouldn't you go back happy?"
Was that line in the film originally?
They filmed it.
Okay,
I think it was, and they're like, maybe we should cut that out.
Well, I mean, it did mean that back then. Well, maybe not back in the 80s, but certainly back in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Gay meant happy.
Well, what if I go back to the future and I end up being gay?
Why shouldn't you be happy?
Okay. Which would have been right. I mean, I think that's the good thing to cut back. I mean, it's just a lot of it was too on the nose. A lot of kids would have been like, and looking at their parents, I would have been like, "What do you mean?" And then my mom would have been, "No, that's not what you mean. Not what they think." They were just like, "Oh no, it is what he thinks." But no, it's not what Doc Brown thinks. I know that, Mom, but that's what Marty thinks he thinks. It's just okay. There's no kills.
Yeah,
of course, except for the wallets of the people who saw this movie. So you and I decided to do our best and worst comedic moment.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be our best moment. It's going to be the best and worst comedic moments. For you, what was your best comedic moment?
I'm going to say the manure scene. I mean, it's a gag they use twice in this, or 3 times in this trilogy, right? Is it
each
twice?
one? In each one.
In each one, yeah. So they're chasing Marty, and the car skids into the back of the manure truck, and they all shout, "Shit!" and it fills the car up with shit. And it looks like shit. It looks like a fucking horse shit that falls on them. So that was always one of the funniest moments for me in this film.
I like how some of the guys of Biff's gang is stuck.
Yeah.
Trying to move his head to get out. And Billy Zane is in this, of all people.
Yeah.
And one of the Young Guns guys, too.
Casey Shabasco.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's the one that says my worst line, so that's why I try to forget it. One of my favorite moments, Darren, best comedic moment. How about this? Is when Marty is trying out for the band to play at the prom, and he's loud, and he's playing Huey Lewis's music.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there. And Huey Lewis is there as one of the the director of the tryouts or whatever.
He's one of the judges, right?
He's one of the judges. Yeah. So they're playing his music too loud, and he's going back and forth, looking at all the other judges.
You're just too darn loud.
It's just too goddamn loud. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Is that he's telling everybody that his music is just too loud.
Oh, it's a great moment.
Okay, your worst comedic moment.
Worst comedic moment is I mean, it's not really I'd say it's the least funniest moment, and it's not played for laughs, but it astounds me to this day that this scene is in there, and that's when Biff's trying to assault Lorraine in the car. Really, even watching it today, I was like, wow, they did this. You know, it's kind of really odd that sequence is in there to the extent that it is.
Yeah, it's kind of makes you icky, doesn't it?
Yeah. It just there's a few moments in this film that haven't stood the test of time, and I think one you brought up with some of the slurs in this film, but also that particular moment, and also the bit when Marty does actually kiss his mom, or when she kisses him, you know, which is kind of like odd. They went there. Wow.
No tongues.
No, it was none of that.
No. Family Guy actually rips off a lot of Back to the Future, where Marty, you know, misses the time for the jump for the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh well, and then he winds up, you know, hooking up with his mom anyway, and then he comes back to the future to a more deformed self.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he goes, "I'm Marty." It's just awful, but it's funny. Mine is actually still the mom makeout. I think that's horrible because she just looks at him, and he's scared. He doesn't want to push her away or something. I think he's probably more surprised at it.
Yeah.
And then she says, with open eyes, "I don't know what it is, but when I kiss you, it's like kissing my brother." And I'm just like, did you kiss your brother too? What do you mean? But was it like kiss? And I think it's that feeling, like it's weird.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, how you can't relate it any other way, can you? It's unless they really want to go there.
All right. Your best moment.
Best moment is, I think it's the very start, because I think what happens is, you know, it's what really makes this movie synonymous with the 80s, which is the moment where Marty realizes that he's late for school because the clocks are late in Doc's house. And he says, you know, damn, I'm late for school. And at that second, power of love kicks in, and you see him going out of the house in all, you know, the neighborhood's 80s glory, skateboarding, holding onto the back of trucks, going through the town center, all the 80s nostalgia's there, the brands, the Burger Kings, the Toys R Us. They've even got a sex shop in Hill Valley, if you notice in the background. Yep. And also adult films playing at the theater.
See you next Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's what, you know, I first started working in cinema in the late 80s. And at the time when I started working in the cinema that I was employed at, there were sex films showing. And so that kind of stuff was synonymous with the 80s, you know, sex sold. And it was kind of the norm to see it all over the place. And that's kind of representative in Hill Valley as well, which is weird. So yeah, I think that moment where that Power of Love song kicks in, it's just a great introduction to that character, the music, the nostalgia, and the setting that this film's taking place in.
I agree with you for that choice. It's not mine, but the way you said it was perfect. I miss those days, and plus, Alan Silvestri's music to this is iconic.
Yeah.
You know, dun, 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 and it's all, you know.
What was that?
But it does feel like you're on an adventure. I almost feel like if you take Indiana Jones's theme in Back to the Future, if you switched them, they would have been perfect together. I do miss the 80s. He's waving to the girls, jumping up and down in the aerobics class. Big open windows. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have open window aerobics classes for the public to sit there with their ice cream and lick it and just watch the ladies jump up and down. We don't have that. It's behind closed doors now because of the Darren and I pervs in the 80s watching them. Great opening. Love the opening as well. And That lady from Save the Clock Tower, didn't she sell a haunted house in the Amityville Horror?
Is that her?
That's her.
Really? I'd never realized that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she sells haunted houses and tries to fix
broken clocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My best moment is Doc Brown realizing that he created something that works. Looking at the JVC old shoulder tape recorder, portable television. He's realizing the future is what the future is going to be. And then he realizes that it takes 0.21 gigawatts to go back in time. And he just goes, 0.21 gigawatts! 0.21 gigawatts, and just goes off. And he's just
Isn't it 1.21?
Something like that. 1.21.
No, 1.21, not 0.21.
Yeah, 1.21 gigawatts. And then Marty's like, what's a gigawatt? And he has no one to talk to except for Copernicus, his dog, and Albert Einstein in a picture.
Yeah.
And that's what he says. I'm sure in 1985 we'll do it on his shoulder on every grocery shelf, but here it's a little hard to come by. Him freaking out of his own carelessness, which actually saves everybody, because then he goes into the future and gets Mr. Future.
Yeah.
So everything. Well, this was fun. We just decided to do this, but I think a lot of people were going to request that at some point.
This film is, like I said earlier on, almost like I think pretty much a perfect movie. It's up there in a lot of people's lists as one of the greatest movies of all time. It's not in my top 10, but I do enjoy it a hell of a lot. I think what clouds it for me is that I was too busy watching horror around this time, and so I wasn't as into it as maybe I should have been as a kind of 13-14-year-old kid at this point. But I started to really get into it even more when the sequels came along, because particularly Back to the Future 2, because I think that's such a clever movie. And we'll talk about it soon. We'll talk about it in another episode. But I think Back to the Future 2 is, for me, up there as being almost as good as the original Back to the Future. Because you get 2 for 1. You get 2 for 1 with that film.
And I think actually Biff's grandmother in part 2 is actually pretty hot. Biff, where are you going? I'm going to the dance, Grandma. When are you going to be back? All right. Well, happy anniversary. Back to the Future. All the stars are still with us, Darren.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Even Doc Brown, they're still doing their little reunions now at conventions and everything. Good for them. It must have been an amazing thing to be a part of.
I saw all of them and didn't get one autograph except for Alan Haworth.
He has nothing to do with the film.
He did. He did sound effects.
He did. He had something to do with it. I remember you telling me now.
He did the hovercraft noise.
Yeah.
That's all he had. He said, hell, John, I'm going to Back to the Future. All right, that'll be it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go around kissing your mom, so or you may change your own future. And on that note, stick to the roads.
And the best of luck.
See you then.
See you guys. Bye-bye.